Hi, everyone, and welcome to our pre-recorded event with Jorge and Sebastian and Shanza for our Math It Up event. And we're really, really excited to have Shanza available as well as Jorge and Sebastian. Shanza will be doing the interview, and Jorge and Sebastian will be sharing their experience as a parent and child journeying through math and how they took learning at home. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Shanza to introduce herself and then our special guests.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shanza. I am one of the post-secondary student ambassadors for Let's Get Together. And currently, I'm a PhD student. Well, I'm starting in September in my PhD in computational biology and in molecular genetics at University of Toronto. So I have been through undergrad. So you can always ask me for questions and resources for it. And so I think Ali now is going to introduce Jorge and Sebastian.
So Jorge and Sebastian, just very, very brief, because I know we want you to introduce yourself, but I've personally known Jorge and Sebastian and Mom Julie for many years. And they're in our community, and Jorge, I know, has been very involved with Sebastian's education, particularly around math. And we'd often share stories, and he'd ask me questions, and he'd share so much information. So when it came time to hosting an event like this, we thought, you know what, there's not a lot of parent-child role models that are out there. And we don't hear enough of their stories. So we asked Jorge and Sebastian, they were excited to be part of this. So we're very, very grateful to have Jorge and Sebastian here. So on that note, Jorge and Sebastian, welcome. And we'll let Shanza start off the conversation. First question.
All right. So I think one of the main concerns that we have currently is that for a lot of us, learning has turned online. And so a lot of students are also going to be staying in the fall. And so we can all do with a little bit of tips or ideas on how to make our homes more ideal for schoolwork and learning. So could you describe your learning environment at home? For example, when do you do your homework? Where do you work? Who helps you? And how do you keep yourself from getting distracted?
Want to start? Yeah, how is your setting?
So we use the PC computer in the living room connected to the TV. We use the TV to display a book or the questions that I'm working on, and the computer to work on the answers to the questions.
Yeah, I find that having multiple monitors helps a lot, and also having the computer in an area where we can keep an or attention on what he's doing, just in case he needs support, right? Rather than an isolated room.
Yeah, that's completely, that's really cool, because I think I even read somewhere that having it in a big screen really drives your focus and increases productivity. So that's an extremely great tip. So Jorge, why is the subject of math important to you?
Well, I work in computers, and my background is in computer science, so I've been always involved with it, and I think the part that I enjoy most is through what I do in computers, but I also find it that it's in so many areas that sometimes you can't even you don't even think it's even in cooking. So I think that's the part that I really enjoy it, and I want to share this joy for the math with my son and with anybody else, right?
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, no, as you said, like I'm in biology and I'm using math, so that's you're really right about math just being everywhere. So we kind of talked about this whole idea that you have been really involved with Sebastian's mathematical learning, especially. So Sebastian, you've mentioned how math kind of sort of became a challenge for you at some point. When did that actually start? And what did you do? And at that time, how did math make you feel?
I can't remember when it started. It's been a while now from when it started, but one of the ways that I've managed to cope with it is if my dad's helping me.
That is so great. Yeah. Did so the whole challenge with math, I think a lot of it is that, how it made you feel or something. And you're saying that now it's like, it's gotten a lot better and you almost don't remember it. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. So Jorge, when did you notice that Sebastian was having difficulty in math? What happened?
Well, I think I started to notice that he was coming home, excuse me, with a large amount of homework. And I started to basically ask him, is it really all the homework the teacher is giving? And then he started to tell me, well, no, some of it is actually because I couldn't finish during the school day, right? So I think that started to give me some insight. And I asked him, you need to clearly tell me how much is homework and how much is work that you couldn't complete, because that was my way to gauge if he was falling behind in class.
Yeah. And that's a really helpful tip, for parents to kind of keep checking in with their kids about, how are things going and what really is homework and what is school, what they were supposed to finish in class. That's a really helpful tip. So what did you do to help Sebastian better understand math then?
I think the important part was to put practical examples, things that were actually more real. Like I think when I remember one time we were talking about distances and he was having a trouble identifying what a kilometer is. So I actually took him outside and we live close to Don Bosco, and I put it in one side of Kipling and I said, you know what? Just take a look at where Don Bosco is, and he said that's about a kilometer. So I think things like that are more practical for them, are easier to ingest. We do a lot of work with like color cubes, anything that is tangible for them. I find that it's easier for him to process.
Yeah, no, that's definitely very interesting. Sebastian, how did you feel about your dad helping you with math? What was the hardest part? How did you overcome it? And how did you motivate yourself to do your math work?
I don't know, actually.
How about, can I interrupt for a sec? So how did you feel about, dad helping you with math and doing extra work at home a bit at math?
I felt a bit better because he could help me understand the math.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Were there any challenges, sitting there working with your parents, working with dad, having to do all this homework at home? Did you find it hard?
Not really.
No? Fantastic. And the last question to Shanza was, how did you stay motivated? There's sometimes you want to watch a favorite TV show, I'm sure, or do something, on the computer that's, more interesting, but you need a math to do. What did you do to stay motivated?
Did the whole, how your dad just mentioned that he took you out for a drive or stuff like that, did that help in the motivation?
Yeah.
Making it tangible. And did you also have a routine at home? Like when you come home, was there a time for you to do homework?
No, it's usually just grab a quick snack and then get to the homework.
Okay, so you had a time when you needed to get that done, right? Fantastic. A routine.
Yeah.
Great. Do you have anything to add on that, Jorge?
I think the only thing that was interesting also is identifying how, because the thing is that I noticed he couldn't keep his concentration for long period of times, right? So I noticed that at the half an hour mark or something, he was starting to get more distracted. So we would try to have a little bit of a break or something, or change him to something else before we would get back. You just kind of try to extend the session. It was just like it was, you will accomplish less that if you do those little breaks in every so often when he was feeling tired.
Fantastic. And I just have one more comment, Shanza, before you continue. And I think the other point which you brought up earlier was knowing your child's learning style. Because I think, Sebastian, in knowing you, you're a visual learner. So you talk about the cubes. You talk about, Dad took you outside and did the measurement. Like you learn by doing and by seeing things. And so by understanding that's your learning style and dad being able to help you provide that experience, did that help you better as opposed to just reading it and trying to visualize things in your head?
Yes. Yes, it helped a lot more than that.
Fantastic. Great.
I guess we've already talked about so many like ways to learn. Were there specific resources that you use, and would you recommend any of them to the parents and students?
I think the some of the tactical resources, as for example, get from the dollar store, like color cubes or sticks or anything that is basically something they can count on with their hands. I think it helps a lot. And then also in the when we started doing all the program with the school under the COVID, a lot of the resources on the computer, programs that helped like drawing the circles and put the sections of the fractions, Excel. So he started to do more work in Excel, and sort of other tools. There's one in particular, um, 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 free plane, that you can actually do brain maps, and it'll help him structure his ideas. So I think those are the kind of tools that I was trying to figure out. If he was having trouble structuring his ideas, then what tool can I use that will help him to make things easier in that way.
So I can see you use a lot of kind of different tools. Like there's like some tactile, there were some like coding kind of things too. So that's really interesting.
And it helps me in that rotation, because I feel that if you're working with Excel in half hour, then we can move onto another tool, and then he'll be able to extend his attention just by switching the tool, even though we're still working with the same topic, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's really interesting. That is awesome. Thank you so much. And so I guess to close off now, what is one piece of advice that you, Jorge, and you, Sebastian, would like to give parents and students each regarding learning math at home?
Well, I think it is very important that we get involved. I think at different levels. I think, as I was saying, I have a more background in mathematics, but even getting involved with your child with other subjects, or even doing the research. Sometimes we were watching YouTube videos on how to do things together, right? Because I some of those things I can't remember myself. So getting involved is actually something that I find it motivates them. Like, it actually sees that, well, if my dad is interested in watching this video, then basically it's probably more interest. There's more interest on their side. So what do you think, Sebastian? What is the piece of advice you would give other parents, kids?
I'd say just help them understand and try to make them like try to help them out, like try to help them visualize the problem.
Yeah. And one thing that we talk a lot is don't give up. I think it's very important. I think never just put the things away because you can't do it. Just don't give up and try different ways, and eventually things will come up. It's like in everything in life. If you want to succeed, you need to make sure you keep at it until you get it done one way or another, right?
No, that's fantastic. Before we end off, because I do have a couple more questions, if that's okay. Sebastian, you did mention, actually, before we started the interview, we said, okay, what's one thing you would say to the parents? And you did say something about resources. Do you remember what it was?
Yes.
Yeah.
Use some resources to help your child out. Like use the resources to help them out. Like, don't use the resources to just give them the answers, but to help them out, like to make it a bit easier.
So would you say, sit down a bit and do it with them to get you started?
Yes.
And then until you get comfortable, and then you go along, then you can take it on?
Yeah,
Wonderful. And how do you feel about math now? Like imagine, and I've had the pleasure of knowing you, and we used to do card rides together. And so I think, math, you were struggling with math, before mid school, before grade 5, I think it was. So how do you feel about math now? You've been putting in the time and the effort. Do you feel more confident?
It's still not my favorite subject, but I understand why it's needed. Like, I understand why we do need it, and I understand that it's inevitable. It's inevitable.
It's inevitable, and it's in everything, right?
Yeah.
And do you feel a little more confident, in dealing with math problems?
Yeah, I definitely feel a bit more confident.
And I have a question for you. So with that confidence, if you come across a problem now in math, do you know what to do? Or what your options are?
Yeah, but if it's something that's too complicated that I can't figure out, then yes, I will ask for help.
But what you do is you at least try yourself first.
Yes.
And then if you try and you're not able to get it, then what do you do?
And if I'm not able to get it, then I ask for help.
Right. And why I bring that up is, you've had to put in a lot of time and effort yourself, and you've continued. And it's been great having your dad help you, and then with school. But the fact is that you're still trying, and you still try to solve the problems yourself first before asking for help. And that's a very important skill. It's taking ownership of your learning. And, while you admit math is not your favorite, you understand its importance.
Yes.
And that's wonderful. And so that's all I have for now. Do you have anything you'd like to add or share? Jorge, as a parent?
I think to me it's important that you pay attention to their learning style. I think that's the part that it's like in everything with the kids. Like you sometimes if you are into baseball, that doesn't mean he's gonna be into that. So you have to be very open to what he is he likes. In order for you to be able to help him, I think that's one of the key things. And for the math, one time he was telling me that, well, I want to put I like music. I'm going to put my guitar studio, and I'm going to teach guitar, so I don't need the math. And I was telling, well, if you're going to do that, you need to pay rent, and you need to know how many students you have to pay the rent, to afford for things. And then when he started looking at that, he started to say, well, all those are numbers, right? So I think that's the part where they start seeing that it is really in everything. And you don't need the complex math, but you need to at least understand the basics and the abstraction of the numbers in order for you to be able to do a lot of things when you grow up. So,
you know what? That is a great way to end the story. It shows math everywhere, and so that's fantastic. And Shanza, do you have anything else? This is your first time doing an interview, so congratulations.
Thank you.
You know what?
I was lucky with the interviewees. Like, they were just amazing. All of you are so amazing.
And do you have anything to add from your experience?
I would say that, yeah, honestly, like math, when it's Sebastian's comment of like, that it's not your favorite subject, but you now understand why it's important, is that's honestly the first step, is to really recognize the importance of any subject, really. Whether or not it becomes your favorite, that's a bonus. But when you understand why it's important or see its applications, that's when you really think that this is something I should work on, or this is something worth working on. And that really is the first step.
Fantastic. And Sebastian, I know I want to learn guitar one day. So I will be signing up for your school. And we'll talk numbers, okay?
Okay.
Thank you so much, and wishing everyone, if you have questions, and perhaps if you have questions for Jorge and Sebastian, even though they're not at the event today, please do send it to us. And if they're okay, we can share the questions with you and then respond, because as I said, our goal is to get more of these stories out here. And it's wonderful to see the family involvement and now the community involvement. You're not alone on this math journey. We're there to work with you and your teachers and your families. So, and Jorge is going to send us, I think, some resources that he's used with Sebastian. So stay tuned. And thanks so much, Jorge and Sebastian, for everything.